What is happening, all of you sexy warriors out there? Welcome back to another live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about the 6-arc Restomod, the future of the AR15 platform, in my humble opinion. Now, yesterday, a lot of people got very upset. I would say even big mad about my video title, which is the 556 is dead. I usually go through a bunch of disclaimers at the beginning of a video that I didn't really feel were necessary with that one. I've been doing it for so long, but I guess it is because it got a lot of people, again, big mad in the comment section. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But today, I wanted to have a live, be able to have a discussion with some of you guys and answer any questions you might have about it. But let's go through some of those disclaimers and talk about some of those topics that I thought were pretty obvious, but apparently not. So first and foremost, as far as the next 10 years or so, I would say, I'm not a psychic, but within the next 10 years, 556 is likely not going anywhere. For the vast majority of civilians out there, and we're not talking about home defense, everything I talk about on my channel is not about a home defense gun. It's about the true meaning of the Second Amendment, which is fighting tyranny, foreign or domestic. So we're talking about shit at the fan without rule of law or fighting a tyrannical government. So actual warfare. And with that being said, with keeping that in mind moving forward, still the vast majority of use cases for a defensive or an offensive rifle mission, mostly defensive in a civilian aspect, defending your home, defending your property, having a crew of guys defending your neighborhood, whatever it is still likely to be within 200 yards. So with that in mind, I'm conceding the 556 is not going anywhere. Okay. Take a look behind me for a minute. Let me step off camera for you guys. I would venture to guess, I've never actually done the math, but outside of the handguns, I would guess that 90% of my rifles, probably 85% of my rifles, are chambered in 556. So I am a big fan. I'm a big believer. I'm a big longtime user of the 556 caliber. And I am also very excited for things like the shell shock technology and the 556 evolving, the peak alloy from Federal. I am a huge fan of these things. I want to see better performance out of the same guns that I already have and that the majority of people already have out there. So when I say 556 is dead and 6-arc is the future, what I mean by that is, for me, I personally shot this gun behind me one time. I'm going to step off so you guys take a look at it. I shot this thing one time yesterday. I am way late to the party on 6-arc. I am probably the last guy on YouTube to actually talk about it. So everyone who's claiming this is YouTubers running out and being bored, running out of things to talk about, look, this has been out for a long time. I am late to the party, but after shooting it one time out to distance, I am a believer and I only want to shoot this. Like, I don't want to go shoot a 556 gun ever again, because if I can afford to shoot this, which again is a big conversation that was had in the comment section yesterday, is the cost, which we'll talk about, then why ever shoot 556 again, in my opinion? It has the same recoil. It's the same form factor, almost the same capacity, which we're going to talk about mags as well. So we're going to go through each one of these in some detail. I want to answer some of your questions, but has extraordinarily better ballistics. I'd call it modern ballistic performance versus something like the 556, which is 50 years old at this point. Still great. Still great. Don't get big mad again. Okay. I am here to help you. I'm here to do with my money and with my resources and connections and the company that I've built, test these things so that you guys don't have to test them with your own money and experiment like I did for years before starting the channel. So don't get big mad. We're on the same team here. Okay. I'm on the team, American citizen, armed, prepared, an asset, knows how to defend themselves, know how to run their weapon, all that good stuff. So now that we kind of got a few of those little disclaimers out of the way, let me talk to you about why, me personally, I love and had so much fun and I'm so excited about 6-arc. Again, I am late to the party. I always wait to see what the market's going to do, if something's going to stick around long term. And typically, if Hornady's backing it, OEM manufacturers are making rifles in those calibers. Not always, but we have a lot of big name manufacturers. Geisley, we have now I'm blanking. We have Noveski, we have PWS, we have Shaw Barrel. I mean, we have pretty much everybody, even Sons of Liberty Gunworks. I know they're big fans of the 6 Max over there. Another thing we need to get to. Somebody remind me, as we're probably going to be 40 minutes into this live and I'm going to forget to talk about it. So somebody remind me about 6 Max and we could have that discussion. Even Sons of Liberty is making a 6-arc barrel and or complete rifle and or upper receiver. Okay. So, and to start it all off, to kick it all off, I believe it was US SOCOM and Noveski and Hornady all teamed up to create the 6-arc to bridge the gap between the 5.56 and the larger MRGGS programs, the 20-inch 6.5 Creedmoors and the sniper rifles and things like that. So we've seen kind of on the surface at least, the dumpster fire that is the NGSW program, the 277 Fury. It is all the things that the AR-10 is, and much worse because of barrel burnout, because of inconsistent gassing issues. You have regular infantrymen who are not trained to the level that most civilians are. Let's be quite honest. Most civilians who take their training seriously are trained at a higher level than the average infantryman in the Army. That's just a fact from what I've seen, at least, right? Maybe they're not in the same fitness or the same, but they shoot a lot more typically, and they're better marksmen in a lot of cases that I've seen. There are some serious guys out there, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that at all. Our military is the best in the world, okay? I love our Army. But the NGSW is a dumpster fire. So SOCOM came to Hornady and Noveski to create this. So you have this chain of events that happen that kind of show me that 6-ARC is here to stay, right? Now, with that being said, on top of that, I wanted to see it actually perform. Now, one of my favorite YouTubers, Mountains Mallets America, shout out to him. He's a great dude. If you don't follow him already, you definitely should. One of the best long-range content creators on the internet. I just got off the phone with him about 30 minutes ago, and I called him, and I went through some of this hate that I was getting in the comments about saying 5.56 is dead and 6-ARC is the new hotness, right? And I asked him, hey, what is your opinion on 6-ARC? And he agreed wholeheartedly that 6-ARC is amazing for many reasons, which we're going to talk about. Now, getting back to the original topic of the video, is 5.56 dead? No. But in my humble opinion, does it make sense to have a 5.56 gun longer than 12.5? I do not see the use case for that when things like 6-ARC exist. So we are running behind me a 14.5 6-ARC. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, the ballistics on that, but let's step back to the 12.5 5.56. So I'm going to pull out my applied ballistics here. I want to talk to you guys about this first and foremost, because I'm very happy with the performance of my Spec War, my 12.5 Spec War, and you can substitute any 12.5 essentially, give or take 50 FPS is not going to make the biggest difference in the world depending on your barrel, your upper. So if you want to talk about the Super Duty, if you want to talk about the Griffin 12.5 that I have, they're all relatively the same as far as ballistics go. So let's set my 12.5 Spec War to active in my ballistic calculator. And let's see here. So 12.5 Spec War. Okay, this is weird. Now I'm caught off guard because it was showing me different ballistics with this same rifle up until just now. So that's weird. Well, it's showing me now that I am supersonic till about 350, going transonic at 400, but it was previously 660. So that's really weird. Maybe I messed with something in my settings here. Now I've lost all credibility. Guy's a liar. I don't know why that is. 2620 FPS. Wait, maybe this is an old profile. Hold on a second. 12.5 Super Duty. It seems that my profile got messed up. I don't know what happened. So we'll go based off of what I actually know to be true, because I just shot that 12.5 Spec War in a 2-gun match, and the ballistics were true out to 660. And I tested it, actually trued it to make sure it was accurate. So my 12.5 Spec War, I know is supersonic, or at least goes sub Mach 1, goes subsonic at 660 yards, according to my chrono data. I don't know what happened with this again, but it is what it is. We'll figure it out later. I know that it's good out to 660. Now, what kind of energy does it have on target at that point? I'm not 100% sure, because my ballistic app is taking a shit on camera, and now it's not wanting to work. It's freezing up on me. Let's go. Let's try the 12.5 Super Duty from Geisel. Okay, this is much more accurate. I don't know what happened with this Spec War. This is showing me I am going, starting to go transonic, which is below Mach 1.2 at 700 yards with the 12.5 Super Duty with that chrono data and applied ballistics, and it goes subsonic after 800 yards. Now, as far as the energy on target, at 800 yards, it has 223 foot-pounds of energy, and at 700 yards, when it starts to go transonic, it has 285 foot-pounds. Now, I'm going to talk purely in subsonic, sub-Mach 1 velocities real quick. That's when I find my bullets start to do very weird things, right? In the transonic phase, between Mach 1.2 and Mach 1, before it goes to Mach 0.9, it has been stable. The bullets have been stable. I've been able to get consistent hits, same hold, same impact, so on and so forth. So we'll use this as an example So this is essentially saying that I'm good out to 800, which still seems a little weird because the 12.5 spec war was good out to 660. So I don't know what's going on with my applied ballistics, but let's just call it 700 yards for shits and giggles on a 12.5 inch AR15, which is going to satisfy the 99% of use cases for civilians out there. I am under no illusion that you're going to be getting in gunfights at 1,000-yard distances every single day. However, when you're talking about, okay, let me just ask you this question. If I told you you could just take this easy pill and add 3 inches to the length of your dick, would you do it? You are an absolute liar if you said you would not do it. And that's exactly what 6ARC does. You have the same exact platform, but you're getting better ballistics to 1,000 yards. Now, most people don't shoot past 200 yards typically. If you go to most outdoor ranges, you're lucky if you have 100 yards or 200 yards out there. So I don't fault people for not knowing what they don't know. But when you hop in the comment section because you've never shot past 200 yards and you're talking about how 5.56 is never going to 5.56 is just as good for 99% of people, sure. But if you like shooting things far away and getting consistent hits, then 6ARC might be for you. It might be. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm going to be doing. And I absolutely love the 6ARC. After shooting it one time, first round impact at 750, first round impact at 1,000 yards with a 14.5, same recoil as an AR15, so on and so forth. But again, I'd be lying to you to say that 99% of the time or 95% of the time, you're going to need to take a shot at 750 yards and get an impact on a 12-inch steel plate, square one. But even within those ranges, look at the energy on target. Now, I know that the 14.5 6ARC data is correct because I literally just put it in and tested it yesterday or 2 days ago at this point. Set this as active. Let's go over to the shoot. Let's see what we got. So we're supersonic out to 1,000 yards. So at 1,000, we are going Mach, where are we at? Mach 1. So right at 1,000 yards, according to applied ballistics, is when my 108 grain ELDM is going from super to sub. Now it hits transonic around 800 yards, but again, that's neither here nor there. In my experience, it was still stable and getting me consistent hits at the 1,000-yard plate. So applied ballistics shows it as red, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's just from actual practice, from what I actually saw and what actually happened when I was shooting, it doesn't matter. So it's super to 1,000 for all intensive purposes, right? Somebody who's a ballistic head can probably explain this to me better, but I saw what happened when I pulled the trigger. The flashing light went off at 1,000, so it hits. It stays consistent. I'm not getting all the weird wonky things that are happening with my 308, my 16-inch Mars H 308, which goes transonic around 800, 850 yards, and then I might get 2 or 3 out of 10 hits at 1,000. So you can call that me, you can call that whatever you want. I don't care. Same guy behind a different gun. I'm getting those consistent hits. Now the energy on target at 1,000 is 336 or 308 foot-pounds. Again, this is changing. I'm guessing based off of the atmospherics in the room. I don't really know why this has changed so much, but I'm not an expert on applied ballistics. But again, my hold is 12.2 mils up at 1,000. I don't even know what it would be on the 5.56, but again, the energy on target, even within those ranges, right? Within the range of a regular, let's say 200 yards, what's the energy on target here? 1,103 foot-pounds of energy. Now let's just swap it back over to the 5.56, 12.5. And again, this isn't really apples to apples. It's a 12.5 versus a 14.5. So I'm doing what I'm going to argue other people shouldn't be doing later on. But let's just punch it in to see what happens here. Set as active. And at 200 yards, this guy is showing 621 foot-pounds of energy. So we're talking about almost double the energy at 200 yards. So you're adding, not only you're having better ballistics, you're having almost double the energy on target at a 200-yard distance, and you're having almost the same capacity, the same recoil impulse. You get to use the same upper, the same lower. You do have to change out the barrel, the bolt, and the magazine, which we'll talk about here shortly. But okay. Are we getting into caliber maxing? Yes, Bones. Do you want to hop on, Bones? I can send you an invite if you'd like to get on here and argue. If you want to be team 5.56, as if there's not enough of you guys out there already. I'm team 5.56 as well, guys. Let's be very clear. I still love 5.56. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, I live in the mountains, and 6ARC only makes life easy on a climb and shoot, long range shooting, and shorter and lighter platform. Yes. Okay. Look, Bones, let me send you an invite real quick. Hold on, guys. Give me a second to pause here and send Bones an invite. Let's see here, invite guest. We are working on getting Bones in here so that we can have a nice friendly debate. All right. I got to get it from my computer to my phone so that I can invite him on Discord. I still don't have Discord on my computer for whatever reason. Let's see here. So while we do this, I just want to show you guys this target so you guys can take a look at this. This is over on my Instagram as well. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram already, please go ahead and check it out. Let me bring that a little bit closer so you guys can see. This is a 5-shot group. And I know there are 5.56 guns capable of this, guys. I'm not saying that at all. But it looks like a 3-shot group because there are 3 bullets in 1 hole. There's 1 flyer that I pulled. Actually, the target's upside down. I shot it this way. So 1 flyer that I pulled top right there. And the rest, there's 1 other one that's pretty much touching the 3-round group there. So I actually measured this out with Ballistic X app and then also a set of calipers just to confirm it. And this is, in fact, a 0.9 MOA group at the largest spread. And if you take out that flyer, it goes down to a 0.3 MOA group. And that's a 4-round group without the flyer. So, again, not claiming that this is the craziest, best group ever. But without that flyer, that is certainly one of, if not the absolute tightest groups I've ever shot in my entire life, especially with a gas gun. I mean, I've shot bolt guns and I've shot tighter groups in 0.9, obviously. But without that flyer, I mean, that is incredible accuracy. I'm certain I pulled that one. I felt myself pull it. You know, the pressure's on when you shoot once and then you only see the hole growing in size. And so the pressure gets put on because you're like, unless I sent that one off the paper, that's in the same hole. And then it becomes increasingly hard to not choke under pressure. But that is with, again, Hornady 108 grain ELDMs, this stuff right here. And this stuff, let's talk about ammunition, okay? Because this is one of the biggest arguments for the 5.56 right here. Cost of ammunition. Now, before we start talking about not comparing things equally, apples to apples, we first have to compare. If we're going to compare this stuff, we have to compare it to the comparable stuff with 5.56 as well. So we're not comparing this to 45-cent, 50-cent round of 55 grain FMJ. We cannot do that. If we're going to compare this stuff to accurized 77 grain ammunition, you know what? I'm not even going to bullshit y'all. I'm going to just look it up right now. Let's go. You know, we'll do ammo seek. We'll do the cheapest of the cheap. I'll do the actual searching for the absolute cheapest you can get. Now, I already have a search pulled up for 6-ARC. So let's just go ahead and show you guys this. Okay, so the cheapest right now, 6-ARC, that is available on AmmoSeek. I'm not sure if I have the shipping filters on or not, but it's showing 98 cents a round for the 80 grain ELDVT, so the varmint round, which I've never shot before. But let's scroll down to the 108 grain ELDM. So this is Ammo ASAP. This is $1.09 a round. But realistically, if you go to somewhere like Brownells or somewhere a lot of you guys shop, shout out Brownells, RDB10 over at Brownells, guys, the biggest supporter of the channel. If you want to support the channel, check out rangedaybro.com, where we have all of our merch, all of our discount codes and affiliate links. Thank you to everyone who does so. But if you go on Brownells, let's just go to Brownells and see. So we're not talking about sketchy, may or may not steal your money websites. I'm not saying any of those that are on there on AmmoSeek are, but I want to just do it the right way. So the V match, the varmint round on Brownells is going for $1.30 to $1.35 a round, depending on the quantity you buy. And the black ammunition, Hornady Black 6-ARC, is going for $126 to $135 a round, and the 108 grains ELDMs are going for $127 to $130. Currently out of stock, but that's where I bought this stuff. I paid for this out of my own pocket from Brownells. I paid $1.30 a round. So, and RDB10 gets you free shipping, I'm pretty sure. I don't know about on ammo, it might just reduce the cost, but usually if the code applies, it gives you free shipping as well. So that's what the ammo is going for. Now, let's just for fun, let's look up some 77 grain accurized OTMs or ballistic tip ammunition. So Here's Black Hills, right on Brownells. Again, it's out of stock, but $1.31 a round, which is actually really cheap. Here's some 223 jacketed soft point ammo for $1.19 to $1.22 a round in stock. 77 grain. Let's look up Federal, which is in my experience the most accurate stuff, and this is going for $1.20 a round. So very comparable. It's actually cheaper than I've seen it in a very long time. That's with Sierra bullets, so that's the good stuff. 77 grain bolt tail hollow point with Sierra bullets, going for $1.20 a round on Brownells. So again, not that big of a difference between $1.30 and $1.20 a round for accurized ammo. Now I understand you can't buy FMJ and go mag dump into trash with 6-ARC yet, but eventually it will get there, especially if the military and less specialized units, more wide adoption occurs because of this dumpster fire we talked about, NGSW, so on and so forth. Then it will likely, and the more civilians that use it, the more rifles that are sold in it, the more people buy it, then the more incentive these companies have to start to produce cheaper and cheaper ammunition. Now we are joined by Bones Maloney. What's up, Bones? How you doing, brother? You there? Can you hear me? There you are.
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
Am I heard?
I don't have an echo here. You are heard, my friend. What's up? Welcome to the live stream. We are talking about caliber maxing, and I shot 6-ARC for the first time 2 days ago. Oh, and he's gone. I guess he wasn't having it. Yeah, it's good to have Bones on because, as he mentions himself, he is an anti-caliber snob. He'd like to hear more about this topic. So was I. So am I, actually. I gave up 300 blackout for a little while. Bones, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little windy, but we can hear you. You are live on the stream. Maybe not. Oh, there you are. Yeah. What's up, brother?
All right.
So,
it should be better. I'm in an area that kind of has crappy service. Hopefully it's strong enough for me to be able to sit here and chat for a little bit, though.
Yeah, we can hear you now. I'm water maxing. Speaking of caliber
sweet.
Maxing, got my gallon.
Hell yeah. Gotta stay hydrated.
You gotta drink a lot of water, brother. So we're talking about this. So yesterday, let me just give you the full story, the full history of this. So yesterday, I posted a real talk that was titled 556 is dead. I was immediately attacked in the comment section, somewhat justifiably so. Usually I have like a 10-minute of disclaimers in the beginning of the video talking about how I didn't really mean what I said I meant, what the title meant, right? But yesterday I didn't do that. And a lot of people were very upset and really jumping to the defense of 556 and saying that 556 will never die because it is simply the best and it is the cheapest and you are dumb and you suck. And that's pretty much what I'm here to talk about today, is that I think a lot of these people who are commenting on this are first of all, they don't understand who I am as a person, what I enjoy doing as a shooter, which everybody's different. So if you don't enjoy shooting long range, then I could see why 6-ARC isn't that attractive to you, right? And if you don't want to shoot really super quiet, then I could see why subsonic 300 blackout's not attractive to you, right? But so I think there's a lot of just misaligned understandings there, but I also am here to defend and talk about how important it is to keep an open mind when it comes to these things, because if not, you'll be the guy riding the horse when everyone else is riding around the Model T. You know what I mean? Bones, you still there? He is on a cell tower. Get him out of here. Bones is a good friend of the channel, man.
I can hear you now. Am I coming through?
You are right now, yeah.
So where I'm at, my service is kind of patchy, and then it's probably trying to render your really clear video. So I'm in an area where I know I have pretty good service most of the time, so this should be serviceable here. But an alternate idea is, if you want, I could hop on Discord in a call with you if that's easier. It might be a little better for the bandwidth.
I don't know how to do that, so let's just try to stick this out.
All right.
Let's try to get a couple points across. And then if you cut out again, it's no big deal, brother. I appreciate you hopping on. All right. I think Bones, it was fun for me to just recap with you, brother, but I think I'm gonna have to boot you,
You caught
unfortunately.
me at a good time here. So I heard what you were saying for I-56s. Oh God, we're fucking
Oh,
trying. Where did
the
I cut
audio
out
is
at?
late,
If we can't do it, it's
dude.
not a big deal. But
Yeah, I don't know. Just go ahead. See, while you're here, just get it all out.
so I saw your video on the 5.56 is dead. I didn't watch it yet, but I did see it, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. You know, a very hot take, right? I mean, I did something similar where I said in my thumbnail, right? I was like, Glock is cooked compared to the RXM. And I don't know much about 6 ARC. I'm kind of an anti-caliber snob, to be honest, but I also come from a very practical, very
Okay. Unfortunately, I had to kick Bones, guys. I'm so sorry. He is a friend of the channel. I feel bad doing that, but it was not working. SmackDown and ATL says, holy shit. Yeah, sorry, bro. I know it might have been a little difficult for you guys to watch for that portion of the video, but I value his opinion. When he gets back in some better service, we'll probably go on another live and have him on to talk about it. But let's get back to the discussions here. He's texting me. He tried his best, guys. So let's go from square one. I'm going to pull up my YouTube video and let's talk. Well, first and foremost, I know what let's talk about magazines, right? So you guys can see this right behind me. This, I can't touch it. We're not touching it, YouTube. We're not going to touch it. And I have a lot of people saying, brother, ooh, look at that curved mag, brother. And I get it. I don't like the look of the magazines. Now, we did have this guy right here. This is an Elander that is hot doo-doo. Again, if you don't follow me on Instagram, go check it out. I have a video of it. I just recently posted on my story today showing how a bullet actually got lodged straight up and down. So you have bullets loaded in properly like so, and there's one sticking up in the middle that got straight vertical in there. I have no idea how that happened. I actually have never seen that in my entire life. And these are hot doo-doo. I like the fact they look like a standard GI mag, a standard Magpul mag, because I don't like the curved look, but we're talking about aesthetics over performance, right? So getting back to the nitty gritty, should you ever have a 5.56 gun longer than 12.5 inches? Humbly, respectfully, no. It can do everything you need it to do from 0 to 600, 650, 700 yards, depending on the loading, right? If you're running NAS3 and 77 grain, probably get an extra 100 FPS, 110 FPS out of it. So that will probably take even a little bit further. So there's really no need to have a 5.56 gun longer than 12.5 inches, in my humble opinion. Now, where does the 6 ARC really lie? Where does the advantage in the 6 ARC really lie? Humbly, respectfully, I think it has 100% more of an advantage over something like an AR10, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, especially 308. Let's just throw 308 out the window because it's an old, antiquated, great for hunting, great for many things. Bad once you get past 800 yards with even a 20-inch barrel. You're looking at like 900, 950 before it goes subsonic. So, but let's compare it to a 6.5 Creedmoor, because I've heard people say, so a better way, I already forget what it was. Damn it. I've heard people say like 300 blackout is to 5.56 as 6 ARC is to 6.5 Creedmoor, something like that, essentially. But it was essentially like, okay, it's more of a fair argument, fair comparison to compare 6.5 Creedmoor to 6 ARC. And I recently shot the LMT MRGGA, which I am still a gun. That's a gun I am very excited about because it's a cool gun. Don't get me wrong. I recently got that barrel shot lights out, really good accuracy, really good long range performance, but it is very, very heavy, and you give up the magazine capacity that you get with an AR15, so on and so forth. The biggest thing is the weight, because I'm still sacrificing with even the Duramag behind me. It's a 26 round mag. It's not a 30 round mag, YouTube. It's 26 rounds, completely legal within your rules and regulations. So still giving up 4 rounds with that Duramag. I'm most likely going to be moving to 20 round Geisley mags. From everything that I've heard, those are the best, most reliable mags that are out there. I've heard, again, still heard great things about the 15 and 20 round Duramags, and I've had no issues. Again, it's very small sample size though, of just 100 rounds through the 26 round Duramag. So it's nowhere near enough to say it's completely reliable. But from the guys that I know that shoot a lot of 6 ARC, They've told me that they've had great success with Duramag and Geisley Mag, so that's what I'm moving towards. I'm never buying another one of these again. But I'm still going to be giving up. So let's just say the ammo capacity issue is the same as with the 14.5 MRGGA. What's the other major advantage, right? Because you're going to have less energy on target because it's a 108 grain versus 140 grain 6.5 Creedmoor, and you're going to have that's really the main thing, I guess. Less energy on target. If the capacity is the same, less energy on target. Well, where's the real advantage? It's 100% the weight of the gun and the reduced recoil of the gun. Now, for full disclosure, the way this guy is set up today, right now, it is set up in a manner in which it will not run without the can, because everybody I talked to, even some of you guys in the comments already, let me find that comment real quick, said it's going to be a little bit more punchy than 5.56, especially on shorter barrels. So this is a 14.5. I can't speak to 12-inch or 18-inch because this is the only 6 ARC I've shot so far. But on this gun, this rifle, the way it's set up, again, suppressed only cycling because of the buffer weight and spring that I have in there. It's a CAC Industries flat wire buffer spring and one of their hydraulic buffer weights that's right in the middle. It's a heavier buffer for sure. I think it's 4.8 ounces. It shoots softer than most of my AR-15s. Besides my 12.5 Griffin, which has a mid-length gas system and like some voodoo buffer weight in there that shoots incredibly soft. Besides that gun, it really does shoot as soft or softer than the rest of my 5.56 guns. But again, I tried shooting it without the can. It wouldn't even cycle because I was expecting it to be extremely overgassed. Everyone's like, you need a flow-through can. You need an adjustable gas block. You need the heaviest buffer weight possible. And that's just not the case with this Noveske barrel. We talked about it yesterday at length, but I'll just pull up the good old nifty 801 Weapon Works spec sheet. When he sent this upper out, it was provided in the gas port size on this Noveske barrel is a .074. According to him, according to what he's heard from Noveske, they recently, or in the last few months, resized their gas ports. So somebody let me know if that's true or not. Resized their gas ports to be a much more conservative .074 on this 14.5-inch variant, and prior to that, they were much more overgassed. So this has a fixed Noveske gas block that I had 801 pin to the barrel. So it's a fixed gas block. There's no adjustment on it, and does not have a flow-through can. The Ferox does have low back pressure qualities to it, but it is not truly a flow-through can. So I was expecting it unsuppressed to be number one, reliable, but even be overgassed with that CAC Industries heavier buffer weight and stronger spring weight that's in there. But that was not the case. When I got there, first round, didn't kick the brass out. So I immediately just threw the can on for the next round, and it started ejecting perfectly between 3 and 4 o'clock, like literally textbook ejection, all in a neat 8-inch pile directly behind the gun. So exactly what you want to see. Extremely soft. Now I have to make a decision. Do I want to mess with that buffer weight, bring it down so that I can get it to run reliably without a can, and then run reliably with a can, or a little slightly overgassed with a can, because it is pin and welded with a reared-in muzzle device. So none of my Huxworks muzzle suppressors will work on it. I do have a Flow 6K, which is currently on the LMT. If you guys can see, where's the LMT? Over. Oh, it's on this side of the room. There it is. There's a Flow 6K. It's on the LMT 12.5 Spec War, but it will not fit on the, as far as I know, there's no way to get it to fit on a reared-in Plan B style muzzle device. I do have the Huxworks hub adapter that they were nice enough to send out. And so this hub adapter will allow me to put any of my other cans that are Bravo Hub compatible on a Huxworks muzzle device. So looking back, I probably should have got it pin and welded with a Huxworks muzzle device, but I really like the look of the rear-end stuff, and they work really well. So, and honestly, I'm trying to move away from these big, heavy hub adapters and go more towards either direct thread mounts or the super lightweight rear-end style. Right? I have a Zilch. We're getting off into the weeds now. This is what happens. So I have to make a decision. Do I want to tune it to run reliably unsuppressed, and then just a little bit more overgas when I suppress it? I shoot 99.9% of the time suppressed. I really my buddy's ranch I go to, I really try not to disturb his family that lives on the ranch. So I really try to shoot suppressed all the time. Plus, it's just better shooting suppressed all the time anyhow. But with that being said, I have that decision to make. Bones is in the waiting room. Should we add him back, chat? We're going to give him another chance.
Hello, King. I think I
Bones.
found a solid location where I can not get wind noise and still have good service.
Yes, you've been resurrected. The
We're
chat that you were
back.
gone. Yeah, we're back, baby. All right.
Understandable.
So we heard you talking about how you try to keep an open mind. You are pretty stubborn on being a snob and sticking to the same calibers, but you try to keep an open mind, and that's kind of where you cut out. And you said
Yeah.
because, yeah.
So yeah, I come from a very anti-caliber snob mindset. I am open to innovation and stuff, and I do like to hear people's points and what they have to make. I'm not blind to any of that, you know. I saw your video on the 5.56 is dead. I didn't watch it yet. I saw the title though and went, oh yeah, okay. So people are gonna get upset by this, but I get
Yep.
it because I'm not blinded to innovation. The same thing happened with my RXM video. So the RXM, I think, is, in my opinion, better than a Gen 3 Glock 19. And, we went into why, and that pissed off a lot of people. And I'm like, listen, we're here we're make the argument. So I'm here for it. I don't know a lot about 6 ARC or a lot of the more modern, more ballistically capable gas gun calibers. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know the arguments, what 6 ARC does better than 5.56, and learn a bit about it and ask my questions. So if you want to give me your synopsis, by all means.
Yes. So I am by no means an expert. I literally just shot it for the first time the other day, but I've done a
Okay.
lot of research. I've watched a lot of videos, and I've had this feeling. So what I've been chasing, just so you know where I'm coming from, I love to shoot long range, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
looking for one gun to do everything with because a guy like me, you look behind me, right? I have dozens of rifles. I'm very blessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is it's hard for me to know one intimately because I have a different one for each job, right? I got a shorty 300 blackout for when I want to be super quiet. I got a bunch of 11.5s, 12.5s. I have 14.5s, and then I have some 16-inch, 18-inch. So I have a lot of guns that I train with, and depending on what I'm doing, I take a different gun that fits that role best, right? Now, I've been looking for a GPR, and I've kind of settled on the 12.5, 5.56 guns. Those seem to do everything that I could possibly need them to do from 600, 700 yards and in, and they're still very maneuverable. I run everything suppressed, so I try to keep things relatively short. So when you add the can, it's not crazy big, musket
Mm-hmm.
style. And but what my passion's always been long range shooting, and I was trying to explain to people during this live. If you've never shot steel at distance, then I wouldn't really expect you to understand. It's like you just wouldn't know how incredible that is to and rewarding it is to have a few seconds go by before you hear that ring come back. And the 5.56 has always fallen short. Even my 16-inch 308 guns fall short. They go transonic, subsonic around 800, 850. And so to have a gun that's not a 20-inch 6.5 Creedmoor or a 7 PRC bolt gun that can now reach out to 1,000, because that is what a 14.56 ARC is able to do. I actually did it. I proofed it out. I chronoed it. All my ballistic data, I trued it out. So I shot it from 2, 4, 6. Then we took it to 750. First round impact on a 12-inch plate at 750. And then I got a first round impact on a large silhouette at 1,000, but still 1,000 yards, a 14.5, same recoil impulse as a 5.56 gun, relatively same capacity. I have a 26 round Duramag. So you lose 4 rounds versus an AR-15, but to have the lightweight platform of the AR-15 and not have to go up to a 10, 12 pound gun like the XM7, right? I think is an absolute game changer. And after shooting it, I mean, one time, I'm very jaded to all this shit. One time shooting it, it's the gun I'm most excited about, hands down. It's not even close. So that's
Okay.
where I'm coming from on it. It can do
Um,
everything from 0 to 1,000.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And especially if you want to you prioritize long range shooting. Yeah, that totally makes sense. A cartridge that can go out to 1,000 realistically and reliably. I'm sure there's far better cartridges than 5.56 to do that with. Absolutely. So I totally get where you're coming from, and for your use case, that makes sense. If you have the money to feed the gun and to get the less common parts, then yeah, for the increase in performance, it makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I don't think that's anything crazy, and that if you've identified I have the money and the desire to have a weapon system that'll go that far, and I value that performance, yeah, I don't see that being a crazy claim. That makes sense. And so for everything that you are saying, I am hearing and I am agreeing with you on for what you want out of the weapon system.
So, and that's exactly the disclaimers I usually put in the beginning of every video. I made the wrong assumption that they were obvious yesterday. In the like to
Yeah.
dislike ratio, the like to dislike ratio was very clear that it wasn't obvious. My
Hmm.
channel average is like 98% like to dislike, and that video is at like 85%. So a lot of people were big mad about it. And that's why I wanted to come on today and just clear that up. Like, okay, number one, is it likely you're going to have to engage a target past 200 yards, let alone past 700 yards? Very, very unlikely, especially in defensive situations, unless you're a large landowner and you have a long range of sight, depending on your environmentals, things like that. But where
Hmm.
the Second Amendment for me really lies is in defending tyranny, for defending freedom from tyranny, foreign or domestic. And if you need to take out a target, if you're on an offensive, I guess you want to call it, right, doing cool guy shit, and you need to go and you're going to take out a target, wouldn't you want, as a civilian guerrilla warfare tactics, wouldn't you want as much distance between you and the enemy as possible? And that's where I think, and not only that, but now you have a 2 to 12 MPVO on this gun. I don't know if you can see the screen. I have a
Hmm.
picture up of it. Now you have a 2 to 12 MPVO and a top dot coming in for it very shortly. You have active and passive aiming solutions. We have enough rail space now with a 14.5 to put a clip-on thermal device, which we're going to be experimenting with here very shortly. So if you had to build one gun, like if you everyone's coming from, how you're a YouTuber, bro, like you get this shit for free, you're sponsored. Of course, the average, you're going to be talking about this. You're just bored. The average person can't afford all this shit. Well, the average person can't afford to have every single tool for every single job like I have behind me, but maybe you can build one and build the right one the first time and avoid all the shit that I went through and all the wasted money and all the trials and tribulation. So here's a thermal that we're going to be talking about in the future, but just an example of
Cool.
what I might throw in front of that 2 to 12. And now you have one platform, relatively small, right? Even with a can, a 14.5, we're still under what a 20-inch, AR-15 would be without a can.
Hmm.
And you have the capability 0 to 1,000 with passive, active solutions and thermal imaging solutions that you can scan with handheld or throw it on the rail. So this is what I've been chasing, right? There is no really true one gun to do everything. There's always
Hmm.
give and take, but the biggest, all the downsides that I see with 6 ARC can be easily remedied by your buddies getting 6 ARC and carrying an extra mag, right? Like, that's it.
So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, and we're getting more into my wheelhouse here, I suppose, and something that I think about a lot. So, I'll say that I will agree that as a civilian, you should be as capable as you possibly can be, and I think that having the ability to engage targets that are far away is good, because the further away you are, in theory, the safer you are, generally speaking. Um, where I think I'll play the enemy here, a juxtaposition to your opinion, is that you are spending a lot of money on a weapon system that is very versatile, but is also very proprietary too. And I guess, yeah, right, as 6 ARC becomes more prevalent and becomes more available and popular, that becomes less of an issue. Um, but I come from a different, budget mindedness too. So if somebody tells me that, hey, my go-to rifle is this 6 ARC with a 2 to 12 and a top dot and all that, um, I wouldn't recommend that for most people. I think that's a very fragile system with an MPVO. It's going to be pretty heavy. I don't know how heavy the barrels are for these weapon systems. You said the magazines are 26 rounds. Not really that big of a deal to me. You just lose a lot to gain performance. And I can see that being attractive. And I can see that for people who have the money, sure, that's a use case that if you've got the money to do so, sure. But I think that that's a very specialized tool that's very focused on long range shooting that I don't think is bad, but I don't think I'd recommend that over a 5.56 rifle to most people. Oh, he's gone? Have I deleted him from existence with my argument? What happened? Where'd he go? Is this my stream now, chat? Uh-oh, what happened? Where'd the man go? Is anybody in here in the comments? What- Is he? Am I still here? Am I the only one here? Did I nuke him out of his own stream? I see likely comment. Yeah, okay, that's hilarious. I wonder if he knows. Yeah, dude, big 556 got him. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, I'll wait for him to come back here. Hopefully he'll be able to rejoin. I don't know. But I'll just continue to talk to kind of keep viewer engagement here. Yeah, I've won the stream. It is me. Big 556 nuked him out of existence. So I think that if you chase performance, you've got the money. Yeah, 6 arc makes sense, but I think that 556 for the average person is going to be better just because it's so much cheaper. It's so much more available. Magazines are cheaper. And building that kind of, he said a GPR, right? Like a general purpose rifle. An LPVO, especially an MPVO, is a lot on a general purpose rifle. That's a lot of weight. That's a big optic, or it's going to be really expensive to be. Oh, is he back?
I'm back, dude. I
He's
am
back.
back.
Big 556 killed him. He's back though,
Dude,
back from the dead.
it got me. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. My computer just was like, yeah, you're done, actually. Big 556 in the chat enters.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
God.
awesome. So I'll just recap what I said. Basically, all I was saying was, I think that if you're chasing performance, it makes sense. And if you have the money to chase that performance, it makes sense. And I get wanting to have one weapon system that does a lot. I think that people will be better served by and large in a Minuteman role with 556 with a less complicated, less heavy rig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree and understand where you're coming from. I do hide behind the I guess the excuse that I'm a YouTuber and it's my job to review these things and give people the information so that they can know whether or not this is worth investing themselves with. And I fully acknowledge that, like I said, dude, even okay, when society is still standing, right? When we're not talking about what I typically talk about in terms of the Second Amendment, we're talking about uh 200 yards and in, like the longest police sniper shot ever, I think was like 200 yards. And that's a police sniper. That's like a full ass bolt gun. How long was the sniper shot that the Secret Service took in Butler, PA, right? It was like 140, 150 yards that bum missed, right? Thank God the left can't shoot. Otherwise we would definitely be in World War III. But I fully acknowledge that these are extreme ranges for most people. They're not considered ELR, right? They're not considered extreme long range technically as far as like the sport goes. But as far as any type of actual engagement, like you look at actual wars that are happening, you look at Ukraine right now, trench warfare, typically what are the average engagement distances? Like between, it's like 150 and in, like typically around 60 to 80 yards, right? From everything that I've seen out there, a lot of it's a lot closer. A lot of it's like clearing old, rubble and old towns. And it's like, there's a dude hiding in a basement, right? And it's mostly just what's CQB, dude? It's just grenades, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, from my perspective, I would argue that it's not that much more expensive. Like it definitely is more expensive. But before you got on, we were talking about ammo prices. I have another window pulled up, but I think sharing my screen is what made my computer crash for whatever reason. So I'm not going to do that again. But compared to federal 77 grain Sierra Gold Medal match, like accurized 5.56 ammo, the 6 arc, this 108 grain Hornady ELDM that I'm shooting is, it's slightly more expensive. I think it was $1.20 a round versus $1.27 a round. So it is more expensive, but when you're comparing apples to apples, not that much more. Also, the cost of the barrels, the cost of the uppers is the same cost as you would spend on a 5.56 barrel or a 5.56 upper. Now, I'm not saying that the MPVO with a top dot is a more durable system than an ACOG or an Aimpoint or an EOTech by any means. But again, I look at this more supplementary, quite honestly. Like, even though I'm probably not going to shoot 5.56, I probably still will, right? I'm definitely going to, but I'm not going to be as nearly excited about shooting 5.56 as I am 6-arc because of how well it defeats the wind, how flat it shoots, how much less of a hold you need to hold on the same barrel length with this new caliber versus the 5.56. But I think it's going to be more of a supplementary role. Like think about it this way, Bones. When you first started out, when I first started getting into guns 5, 6, 7 years ago, what was everyone talking about, right? They say buy a 10-3 Mark 18 and then
Yeah.
or BCM, and then buy a Mark 12 upper, buy a 18-inch SPR type upper, and then you have two guns that can fit 99% of rolls, right? I
Hmm.
think this is going to transform that second piece, right? It's like now I'm the guy who's like buy a 11.5 or 12.5 upper, whether it's Geisley, BCM, whoever, right? Pick your flavor. They're all good from a reputable company nowadays. And then instead of buying an 18-inch 5.56 gun, why not go with a 14.56 arc gun that will get you way better ballistics than even an 18-inch 5.56 gun, way shorter, not that expensive. I mean, I mean, I know people do put 55 grain through their, SPRs, but I was never that guy. I shoot almost exclusively 77 grain. So that's where I think it lies. And I think it's honestly more competing to outpace and beat and take away sales and usage from the 308 and the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 277 Fury than it is to take away from the 5.56 for those reasons that I stated, right? So much lighter, less recoil. You're able to carry more ammo, or at least the same ammo as those larger calibers. Yeah, you have less stopping power, right? Less energy on target. But for man-on-man combat, like, doesn't take much energy to take a man down versus a moose, right? We're not shooting fucking moose out there.
Hmm.
That may change with the Tesla robots, but we may need more energy on target.
I mean, I'll say that so the 6 ARC is kind of like between a 5.56 and a 308, but better designed to be shot longer distance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's essentially kind of what it is. Okay, I mean, that's definitely a cool concept. I can see that being useful for a lot of people, and yeah, it's a supplementary role. I mean, it's good to get the information out there, right? It's good to say, hey, this is my experience with this. I could see this being the future of a civilian DMR style rifle that's a bit. You get something that's like a DMR that's lighter, that you carry more ammo than 308. It's roughly the same price, but you can shoot way further. I think
It's
that's
actually
good.
it's actually much cheaper than the 308. The 308 that I like to shoot, it's much cheaper than. It's usually $1.50 to $1.70 around for the 168 grain federal CR gold medal match. So as far as comparing it to 308, it is I would say substantial. The same amount of cheap, like it's cheaper to 308 than 6 arc, than 5.56 is cheaper to 6 arc. So it's substantially cheaper than 308.
I will say, I'll add a I don't. So when I shoot 5.56, I'm shooting 55 grain FMJs. But either that be M193 or at PMC X-Tac, their boat tail FMJ, or 62 grain. So I am of the mindset, and just how I shoot is I'm very much so. I'm not looking for crazy long range performance. I'm not looking for insane accuracy. I'm looking at what I can afford, what I can get good training with. And so I don't have a lot of I don't know what the price of, I know what the price is for 55 grain and 62 grain, 5.56 and 223. And I know roughly what M80 ball is. And I know M80 ball is a meme of how inaccurate that cartridge is for 308. So I'm not even going to try to compare it to with the cartridges you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'll say that I think a lot of people, they aren't, like, when I hear personally, and this is just me, when I hear people talk about 77 grain 5.56, I tend to not really care. And that's just because I know I'm not going to spend the money on it. I'm not interested in it. I don't really care about having such tight groups at such a long distance, though I do understand its practicality and why people do it. And I think
Okay,
that,
what barrel
go ahead.
lengths are usually shooting though? Because it comes in to play expansion and effect on target, right? I mean, if you're shooting a 10-3 and you're shooting 55 grain and you're going whatever, 1900 FPS at 200 yards or whatever it is. I mean, I'm usually the guy, like, it's still going to take somebody out of the fight, right? If you get hit with one of those, you're probably not shooting back much after that. I'm not the guy who's like, oh, I'm just going to eat fucking 55 grain and keep shooting, keep walking,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, if you're shooting shorter barrels, the 77 grain, there are bullets that are optimized for shorter barrels that expand much better. That's the thing with the technology, right? It's
Yeah,
come a very long
absolutely.
way. So what, I don't know what barrel lengths you're running 55
Hmm.
grain through, but unless it's a 18 or 20 inch after about 200, 300 yards, it really does become a lot less effective on like putting the enemy down. Right. So I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to throw in that tidbit because it does make a difference, right? On
It
ballistic
does. Yeah, it's
performance.
just I am personally not super interested in that or worried about it too much. I'm more worried about what can I stock up on, what am I going to not feel bad about training, and I'm going to use that same ammo for the quote unquote duty purposes. To hunt the USSR HOA goons that are going to try to tell me I can't grow corn in my front yard. So I run a 14-7 pin and weld. I don't have a suppressor or anything. And that's my general purpose rifle. It's maneuverable. I get decent performance out of cheap ammo. And I am worried about 300 meters and in realistically. And then can I push to 600? Sure, if I have to.
Hmm.
But I'm not really super concerned past that
So
for that weapon system.
you're not like maxing, I feel like, right? Like you made the joke earlier, like caliber maxing. To
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
it's like you're more like far more budget mindset. You're far more training mindset, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, okay, I hear you, and I think that you know what? I think the vast majority of people, I still think you're ahead of like the average gun owner, right? That buys a gun and shoots it twice a year. But I still think you lie within that. If it's a bell curve, right? There's 90% in the middle, or 90% in the middle. There's 5% on both extremes. Um, as far as serious shooters go, I think you're probably right in the middle with most people who are just trying to stock up, train, get better at the fundamentals, right? Like how good is a half MOA gun if you can't fucking, get in any position besides prone and hit a target, right? There's way
Hmm.
more things that are far more important than the accuracy of the rifle because most shooters can't shoot a half-inch group even if the gun is capable. So I
Yeah.
totally get that. But where I'm sitting at, right, and where I think a lot of my serious viewers who do shoot long range or who take it very seriously, who say, okay, let's say I have this amount of money right here, right? Let's say I have,
Hmm.
for an example, $5,000. That's a high number. Let's say I have $4,000, which is still a high number, but throughout the whole year, I have $4,000 that I can spend
Hmm.
on guns, optics, ammo, training, whatever it is, right? In my opinion, wouldn't you want to get the most out of that? And where you're coming from is, yeah, so I'm going to buy cheaper ammo. I'm going to train as much as possible. And I'm just going to get as good as I can get because most likely I'm fighting USSR HOA guys 300 yards and in, and this is going to accomplish what I want it to accomplish. I sit on the other side where I'm trying to maximize with that same amount of money. I'm trying to see how much I can push, how much energy I can get, how much accuracy I can get, how far I can go out with the same amount of money, and maybe it gets me a quarter or half, probably like half of the amount of ammo that you can get, right, for that same amount
Hmm.
of money. But it's okay. Here's a big thing that Brass Facts actually said that I really appreciated because I never heard it put this way.
Hmm.
This is a very serious thing, right? Like being a serious citizen, you take it seriously, right? But if you take it too seriously, you're going to get burnt out. If you are
Yeah.
always fucking paranoid and you're always taking it super seriously, you'll get burnt out and you're going to give up on this shit, right? Because you're never going
Hmm.
to be prepared enough.
Yep.
So he's like, it's got to be 50% serious and 50% fun. And again, going back to what I enjoy, shooting long range, shooting steel at long range. Okay, let me ask you this question, Bones. Have you ever shot steel at long range? Like, what's the furthest you've ever shot? And I want to hear about this experience.
The furthest I've ever shot, I think, is probably, I'm going to say probably around 300 meters. I'm trying to think of a time I've shot further than that.
Okay.
I really can't think of it. I have shot, this is maybe sounds silly, but I've shot 9mm out of a PCC out past 100 meters, which is not far, but for 9mm, you shoot
Yeah.
it and you wait about a second or two and then it hits the target. You go, oh, look at that.
Yes. So now
So
imagine,
that's my
imagine,
experience.
imagine that experience amplified by 10 or 20, because that's how much better it is when you shoot. And again, I don't want to be like, well, dude, you just wouldn't get it, because part of me, like the hater in me, wants to be like, bro, you don't get it.
Hmm.
But I have a feeling if you came down to Austin and I took you out and I put you behind this rifle and you shot it at 1,000, as one of my friends did, right? A good friend of mine who came with me, he sat down after I hit the 1,000, like 7 times in a row. And I sat him down. I told him exactly where to hold, and he got a first round impact at 1,000. And you just see his face light up. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And again, I'm not taking it back to practical purposes. Is it ever going to be really like that big of a deal? No, but you have to enjoy it. And if it makes you get out and shoot more and train more, that is super important to me. But also within those realistic ranges, within 300 yards, I had a guy talking about 16-inch 5.56, a 36, 300 yard zero. You hold, you have, you hold at the same place everywhere, no matter where you're shooting, right? Well, what happens if you need to take a precise shot? People don't like to just stand out in the open and get their faces blown off, right? Or get shot up in the chest. So what happens when you have a guy behind a tree or who's not trying to be seen, right? And you got to take a precise shot. Maybe you have a 6-inch head plate exposed to you and he's at 450, 500 yards. Well, the 6 arc is still going to be massively more. I would 100% of the time, even just after shooting it one time, take this rifle behind me. As long as it proves to continue to be reliable and all that, all the, again, things that I assume people know already, but let's just say it for clarity. As long as it continues to perform and have no reliability issues and has longevity to it and so on and so forth, like Noveski's bolts are promising. That's another issue with the 6 arc, is that the bolt face, the walls of the bolt face are very thin because of the back of the case being wider. So bolts were failing around 2,000-3,000 rounds, but Noveski has claimed to have fixed this issue and essentially made the bolt longevity last as long as the barrel life. So when you change a barrel, you change the bolt. It's kind of like a non-issue then, right? Like 10,000 rounds, change the barrel, change the bolt, you're good. But as long as it continues to be reliable, I would 10 out of 10 times take the 6 arc because of the precision, because of the less drop, the energy on target, all the aforementioned reasons. And then if I do need to take a offensive shot, if I want to take somebody out, which I do not want to do, I'm a lover of all people, at 750 yards, dude, I got first round impact on a 12-inch steel plate. That's never happened to me. And you could argue I'm just getting better as a shooter because I am. I actually take it seriously. I work on my trigger press, work on my breath work, all the shit. But it's never happened to me before with such ease. It was so easy. It was like a cheat code. That's kind of what I have to say about it.
I get you. I get where you are coming from with a lot of it. It is, I'm sure it is really fun to shoot long range. It's something that I want to get into a little bit as well. I think it would be really rewarding and I would enjoy doing it. And I think having that capability is really important. Where I'm at though is just, you are speaking on a very high level of shooting. Not many people are going to be at that level. And I would rather someone have something they feel confident maneuvering with and using in most scenarios that they can afford to shoot than something that has the most range capability. And it depends on what you value. Everybody, I've said this quite a few times, and a lot of people, I don't think really understand it, but everybody's going to plan for whatever LARP that they want. They're going to value what they think is most important. I don't think that's inherently wrong. People are going to come up with what they want to justify what their weapon system is and what they think is going to happen or what they think they're going to do. And that's fine. It's all fun and games. It should be grounded in reality. But like, that's fine. Everybody's going to value different things. And I get where you're coming from, and I don't think it's a bad weapon system at all. I just think that most people are going to be served better with a basic 5.56 AR. However,
Agreed.
there's lots of performance left on the table, and it just depends on what level of shooting you're at, what you're going to value, what money you want to spend, and what you're trying to do. So I think that
we both agree. I was playing devil's advocate a little bit because I'm so excited about 6 arc. I agree 100%, dude. I'm still a huge fan of 5.56. It's really, at least in the foreseeable future, not going to be replaced. Maybe a couple of decades from now, we'll see how USOCOM likes the 6 arc because they were the ones who requested it earlier in the stream. You missed it, but I was talking about, as far as I understand, 6 arc came about because SOCOM approached Hornady and Noveski to create it. I think a big part of that was because of the failures of the NGSW. Maybe it's completely unrelated, but I think they wanted to maximize the effectiveness of the AR platform, and that's why I call it the Restomod. I call the 6 arc the Restomod because you have the shell of the AR-15, exactly the same upper lower handguard, and the modern ballistics, the modern internals of the 6 ARC barrel with the high BC and the energy that it brings. But again, if I'm being 100% honest, like all jokes aside, I think the AR-10 has a lot more, should be looking out, right? AR-10's girl is about to get stolen by 6 ARC, in my opinion, because I am a huge fan of AR-10s. If you look behind me, I have 2 HK MR762s, the A1 and the A4. I have the pipe hitter behind me. I have a SCAR 17. I have the MRGGA. I have the 16-inch barrel for that spec war, or for the LMT rather. And it's because I love shooting long range so much. So when I saw what 6ARC could do in so much smaller of a platform, I mean, I was literally just bricked up. I was at the range. I've never been that excited about a gun that wasn't a suppressed SPR in FRT mode. That's also very fun. Or suppressed subs out of a 300 blackout with an FRT is also bricking you up as well. Or you just don't have a pulse. But that's just the nitty gritty of it, man. I mean, I know I'm late to the party. 6ARC's been out for years now. There's been a ton of videos. A ton of my favorite creators have already talked about it. I am very slow to adopt, right? I also gave up 300 blackout for several years because I had a couple custom builds that I built that I just could not get to run reliably. And reliability is like the benchmark. It's the barrier for entry into me even talking about it. If it's not reliable, it's a range toy and I have no interest in it. So yeah, that's why I don't own a fucking Mac 10, you know. That's why I don't own anything really gay or dumb. I mean, it's cool to own that shit if it gets you going, whatever, but it does not get me going. A suppressed FRT 11.5 for 3,000 rounds without a hiccup is what gets me going, right? So I don't know. A lot of people are talking about, you know, what happens if shit hits the fan. Well, yeah, that's today, right? You'll be able to go to any gun store or break into some random son of a bitch's house that's already passed and find 5.56 or 308, right? That's the old adage, right? Good luck finding it and shit hit the fan. But I don't think that's going to change for a decade or more, or until the entire U.S. military switches from 5.56 to 6ARC, if that ever happens.
Yeah, it's a very, like, it boils down to, it's just a very high performing round that if you've got the money and the interest and spare space in your gun safe and all that, then cool, you know, it can do a lot of things really well, and that's neat. But it is, again, a very specialized weapon system that you know, is very flexible, and that's awesome. But it is just, it's another option that is out there, you know. And I think it's cool to see something that maybe has a use case that's better than an AR-10 or more flexible in the civilian role for the same price. So, you know, I think that's a very valid thing to get out there.
Agreed. And everybody, since we haven't already mentioned it, Bones, you want to shout out your YouTube channel? So where do people find you at? If they want to subscribe, how do they find you?
We are, as it appears on screen under my name, we are Bones Maloney on YouTube. I just talk about things in the firearms world and make videos on stuff that I think are valid, that people either aren't talking about or that interest me. We don't talk about things that I don't know about or don't care about. We don't try to claim to be anything we're not. And we come from a very budget-minded but very practical, utilitarian, reliable, simple, and effective mindset for the, you know, quote-unquote prepared citizen. And I just pushed out some cool videos about the PCCs, the RXM, and I've got one coming out here very late August, because I'm currently in some military training right now, so I won't be able to film. But we have something coming out then that I hope isn't complete dog shit. So if you want to find me, that's where I'm at.
Nice, dude.
It was a schizo rant, all right? It's just I talked at the camera for about 10 minutes about something that I think is very important in the gun community, and it kind of pertains to this topic. Not to derail too much, but that video, spoiler alert for people who are interested, it is me kind of dissing the concept of a recce rifle and replacing it with what I think is going to be more valuable for most people. But it also comes from the mindset of you only have one rifle. If you only have one rifle and you're putting together a recce rifle and you want to be a prepared citizen, I think there's better ways you can go about putting together your one rifle. But if you're going to put together 3 rifles, then I definitely think you should just have 3 of the same rifle or 3 general purpose rifles, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. And dude, please derail all you want. I think we've kind of milked this 6-arc cow for as much as it's worth. Been going on an hour and 10 minutes here. So I don't mind derailing. I'm probably going to derail myself and talk about some
It's
other
interesting
things and
too, you
answer some
know?
questions. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm very interested in hearing that topic. You mentioned it's just a schizo rant. That's all I do here on this channel. So we're very fond. My
Yeah.
viewers are very fond of the schizo, or I call them autistic. We get real
Yeah, the
autistic
autistic
here on the
rants,
channel.
yeah.
Yeah, we get really into the nitty gritty on little parts, performance, things like that. So
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Now, Bones, I don't know. Can you talk about what you do in the military? Because I actually don't know. I know you've mentioned that you're in the service. What exactly do you do? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, sure. Nothing. I'm in no classified sneaky squirrel stuff. I'm a forward observer in the Army National Guard. So the job is basically I do observation and I direct artillery to shoot and adjust them when they're firing their fire missions. I have the certification to assist in doing that with aircraft and working with JTACs and TACPs.
Uh-huh.
I've been in for 7 years. I'm a staff sausage, and I spent 3 years as a military advisor with 1 deployment over to Africa while I was a military advisor. So that's my little pedigree check. Not
Nice.
claiming to be anything I'm not, just a dude who, I know I've spent some time with infantry, I've spent some time with artillery, I've spent some time with, a pseudo unconventional, operation with the advisors. And now I'm just a regular platoon sausage, getting ready to go over to Syria as of right now. So
Oh,
um,
really? Is that
that's
I didn't hear about that. So we got guys deploying to Syria?
It's, and I mean, I don't know what is specifically for official use and not, so I'll be very cautious with what I say. But nothing I've been told has been any sneaky stuff. It's simply base defense over there. They've got some little satellite base. They rotate guys through to be security. It's gonna be very,
Okay.
very boring, very slow. I'm sure this isn't any infantry's going over there to do patrols. We're just, hey, we need a couple hundred dudes to protect this base for the next year. All right,
Okay.
that's what
Yeah.
it is. So
It's still pretty interesting, pretty cool. Now, when you're directing artillery, are you using a laser rangefinder,
uh,
laser directing device, where
so when we'll use so when I'm doing artillery stuff, usually it's either it's degraded, which just means I've got a map, I've got a compass, and I've got a pair of binos, and I'm doing my fist wizarding, and I'm giving the artillery what they need. But sometimes if we've got a more static OP, that's an observation post, we'll set up a laser designator or something that can pull pretty precise grids from a location. So it's a mix. It just depends, on how mobile we have to be. Because if it's real mobile, then we're rocking a pair of binos, our map, and maybe our ATAC on our phone. But if we're sitting somewhere, we've got long sight lines and we're in an established place, it's relatively safe. We can set up. Then yeah, we've got laser rangefinders and stuff for that too.
pretty cool. So yeah, when you first said forward observation, I was thinking you're talking shit on the recce rifle, but you do recce, but you're not doing recce yourself. You're doing recce like shit to direct artillery, kind of, right?
So it's like my job in the military is it's combat arms, but it is very much so. If I am getting into direct action with enemy forces, that's a
You
bad
fucked up.
day, and I'm fucking
Yeah.
leaving. This is not what I'm here to do. If my OP becomes compromised, it's break contact and get out of there. Now fight my way out. Sure, but I've talked to some dudes who do reconnaissance, and this is something Trench and we've talked about a little bit, and bring up trench grenade, everybody gets upset, but the what recce is, and I think that the civilians have taken the term recce and kind of molded it into something that it's not. In a use case, I think a little silly, but we'll talk about it. So recce in the military, this is you're going out and your goal is to gather information so your commander can make a decision. That is what reconnaissance is. It's all about we're going to go gather info and report back to higher so they can do their, military decision-making process and determine what they want to happen next. Awesome. And I think a lot of guys who really high speeds and guys on YouTube make reconnaissance something that it's not. Because when you do reconnaissance, the last thing you want to do is get into a fight. And a lot of the time, the rifle you'll bring to do reconnaissance is often a very simple, a very light rifle. It's almost like a PDW. You know, this weapon system, you're not going to use it as an observation tool. You're not, you know, putting a 1 to 10 on this and going out and using your rifle to scope stuff out. You know, optics on weapon systems don't make good observation tools. They're better than nothing and they can use to supplement, but usually you're going to go out and you're going to bring some specialized tool to do the reconnaissance, something like binoculars, laser rangefinders, drones, stuff like that. And I'm trying not to get too long-winded, but I think a lot of people, they get this mindset that they're gonna build out this recce rifle and they're going to do, you know, some pseudo guerrilla warfare, recon in force, where they're going to go out with this rifle, they're going to use it as an observation tool, and they're going to take out bad guys if they need to. And I think that that's just a very, very niche thing that you could build your rifle for. Isn't inherently bad, but it's kind of this made up scenario that I think a lot of people don't really understand and isn't really a thing in the military. And that's fine. Not everything has to be modeled off of the military, but the term recce rifle to me is a little bit of an oxymoron for a number of reasons.
Well, no, first of all, I like getting into this topic because something you said earlier that I really agree with is that we all train for or kit our gear, tailor our kit towards the fight that we want. Not the fight that we get or the fight that we will most likely have or deserve, right? So in my case, I'm like, I love the idea of being a DMR. I love the idea of going on offensive missions, take out high value targets. It's like, look, war is just going to be hell. It's just going to literally be no water, no food. You're shitting in holes. It's really going to be, nobody really knows what it'll look like. We can kind of look to Ukraine and Russia right now to get an idea of what a peer-on-peer conflict looks like with your neighbor, right? And we see a ton of drone usage. We see a ton of trench warfare. I mean, it's back to the basics, right? World War I trench warfare, and it's artillery, it's fucking FPV drones, which is definitely not World War I, but it's kind of a improvised. It's like an IED in the sky, right? It's just like, instead of a mortar being fired from a mortar cannon onto your head from 600, 700, however far away, right? It is modernized mortar. I mean, it's like a modern twist on the same shit we've been doing. We've been blowing each other up for since gunpowder was invented. So you can kind of look to these modern conflicts like Israel and Gaza, even though that's not really quite peer on peer, which there was also just information, not to completely derail, but that Bibi funded Hamas through Saudi Arabia. That's unfounded. I just heard that. So do your own research, but I thought that was very interesting. But anyways, not to go down that rabbit hole, you can look to these modern conflicts to get an idea of what it would look like, but in reality, we all have no clue what that would actually be. So that is why I try to create the most well-rounded type rifle, right? The GPR, like you said. But isn't that in essence what a recce rifle is? Isn't it a GPR?
So I want to touch on a few things. So it is good to look at what's going on in Ukraine, other conflicts that we know about, to get an idea of what it looks like. And it is really interesting, the mix of the old and the new in Ukraine and stuff like that. Trench warfare with drones is crazy. Two things I want to touch on, though, is that we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what this fight is going to look like, if it ever happens, what our enemy's going to be. And as a civilian, we should be as flexible as possible within reason. And so, you don't know if you're going to be fighting an invading force, Antifa, but, they got on TRT and decided they're going to try to do some crazy stuff. The HOA goons, we don't know. And I understand the idea of you want a weapon system that's flexible, yes, but you also want something that is going to be capable in what is the most realistic is going to happen for you and your skill set. and you also want something that you're going to not ever have to be worried about. So that is, and here's where something that maybe some of the military experience, in quotations, kind of where I'm coming from with some of this is, as an example, like a recce rifle. Okay, so you've got like a 16-inch barrel, let's say, that's fine. You've got an M-LOK handguard, that's fine. You have an LPVO on it, that's cool. And let's say you have the red dot stack on top. Okay, that is a very flexible weapon system. It's also very heavy though. LPVOs, MPVOs, very heavy. It's a lot to carry around. That's going to be very fatiguing in the event that you have to maneuver. All for that increased range capability you may or may not need. Also, durability is what I'm going to talk about too. With an LPVO and an MPVO, that is going to be one of your least durable options for an optic setup. And I understand you can make them durable, but it's not going to compare to like a red dot or a prism. And I understand wanting that capability to stretch out to 1,000, stretch out really far. But in the event that, you know, you're in something in a fight that's not a nice DMR patrol, where you have to be maneuvering, you're going to be moving in and out of a vehicle very quickly. There's a good chance you're going to fall on your rifle. You're going to slam into furniture. You're going to slam into doorways. That more nasty, real world kind of just, it is what it is, being in the shit. I would rather have something more robust that's a little less capable. And I think a lot of people kind of lose that. They lose that plot a little bit, where they're like, yeah, my go-to rifles and has an LPVO. It's a, you know, something that's light, relatively long, that can really stretch out and touch someone. And that is a really good asset to have. But in the event that I got to take this weapon system anywhere, you know, there's a good chance that LPVO becomes damaged or loses its zero, or now it's really heavy, it's very fatiguing. That top dot, I got to worry about batteries for it. It's also at a really high plane on the rifle, so it's very prone to getting snagged on stuff, to getting damaged. You're just opening a lot of failure points, and you're adding a lot of complexity to your rifle to chase those capabilities. And I think for most people, chasing those capabilities will not be worth it compared to just having something that's rugged, that's capable, that they're not going to have to baby it or anything, and will be ready to do whatever they have to do within 450 meters. That's kind of my spiel on it. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. Hopefully I'm still here. We didn't lose him. Oh, we lost him? Okay, where it's me and you, chat, we gotta, I don't know what time, when he went away, but I guess we'll use this as our platform here. That's kind of what I'm talking about, is I think a lot of people, they get caught up in the capabilities and lose sight of some of the real world, not super sexy stuff that just, that is really fun to do, but they kind of forget about, oh shit, I might have to throw this in the back of a vehicle. I might need to maneuver with this for a long period of time. You know, in the event that I fall, or, you know, I'm getting blown up, or I need to maneuver in rough terrain or in a building. If, you know, my rifle's slamming around and stuff, is my shit gonna lose zero? Is my stuff gonna break? All those types of things I think a lot of people don't consider, because it's something that's easy to overlook in the pursuit of performance. So that's kind of where I don't recommend an LPV or a recce build for a lot of people. Man, they hating on 6ARC, I'm out. It was interesting to hear what he had to say. Bones, yep, it's my stream now. I have murdered, I've sent the 556 goons out to get Range Day, bro. He's gone. It's my stream. We're ranting about why I don't recommend a recce rifle for people's, you know, only rifle they have. We're yapping about it until he gets back. Gerald, you've got a question. Red dot or hollow? Are you asking me, or are you making a statement? I think those are both good options. If you're building your one GPR, you know, you've only got one rifle, you need it to be as flexible as possible. I would say get a prism on it. That's going to be one of your most rugged, durable options. Maybe you can put a little red dot stack on it, or get a red dot or holographic with a magnifier if you're so inclined. I think he's back. Is he
I'm back,
We managed to
boys.
stall.
focus trip right on cue. Bones' stream, absolutely. I have had more technical errors this stream than yeah, than a
We're
lot of
super
things. I don't even know what to
professional.
fucking say. Super professional. We're super high funded production over
Yeah.
here. Dude, I heard everything you said. I heard you ranting,
Okay.
and it was killing me not to be able to respond because I also agree with you on a lot of the things you said. If we're talking about 2012, 2015, 2017 LPVOs, like I think LPVOs that, okay, and granted, this is an expensive thing, right? Like you're all talking
Hmm.
about budget minded. The attacker, we're talking about even the middle of the road LPVOs like the EOTech, right? I
Hmm.
don't treat those nicely. I'm not saying I do drop tests on them. I don't beat them with hammers, but I do use
Yeah.
them pretty seriously. I don't. I mean, I do run around with them. I jump around, jump in and out of for a lot of my training. I try to get dynamic, so to speak, right, without
Hmm.
being so too cringe using that word. But I try to actually run them hard as if I am using them in a real world scenario. Where, and again, there's no real substitute for falling out of a two-story window with your rifle. And like, would I rather have a red dot, an aim point, or an LPVO in that case? Of course, I'd rather have an aim point rather. But
Hmm.
I think that again, if you are okay, money aside, right, which is a
Hmm.
big factor for most people. I think that there's so many good options now for LPVOs that are very durable. I'm not saying they're as durable as an ACOG, but if you try to shoot a 6-inch plate that's slightly recessed into the tree line with an ACOG, you just can't see it. And I have good vision. So again, and I know that most gunfights you're not having time to prone out, set up in an ideal shooting position. It's mostly just 99% of the rounds are going into dirt, right? Covering fire maneuver, regaining position, and it's all about going back to the 6R conversation. It's all about fire superiority and having more ammo, right? Those are usually the guys that win gunfights, and
Hmm.
I understand all that, but are you like, what are you really giving up? What percentage of durability are you giving up going with a good LPVO? I'm not saying the Amazon special, certainly not that, but even like an SLX from Primary Arms, I have no idea, right?
Hmm.
Certainly, no one's really arguing that an ACOG is less durable than an LPVO, but you brought up something earlier as well, and this real world experience. I try to keep an open mind, right? I
Hmm.
obviously have a lot invested in LPVOs, so I have a little bit of bias here. So got to
Yeah.
defend my purchases a little bit here. So, but I get it. Look, coming from your actual real world experience of being in the military, you mentioned earlier observing with an optic on your gun is okay, but it's nowhere near ideal. And having a pair of
Hmm.
binos, having a rangefinder, something like that to actually glass with, is a lot more is a lot more realistic. Or what was, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What was the way you phrased that, right? It's more
Well,
ideal.
let's talk about this because I think this is something we'll probably agree on, and something I think a lot of people don't think about, and that is the also my channel is Bones Maloney. It's spelled right where my name is. That's just copy paste that into YouTube. You'll find it. It'll be great. Um, but so when we talk about observation, you using a scope on your rifle as an observation tool is it's not ideal. You add a lot of weight to your weapon system, and your weapon system should be for fighting, for defending yourself, and yeah, taking those longer range shots, but it should be for engaging targets. And if you're going to add this weight, saying I'm going to use this as my observation tool, you're adding excessive weight for no reason. It's kind of like I like to compare it to people who say they're like I have and we're in this group a little bit here, but guys who they have a weapon mounted light on their pistol for their concealed carry pistol, and they don't have another white light of any kind. So now they're forced into using their pistol as a flashlight, or that's the only flashlight they have, right? So if they
Mm-hmm.
want to light, they either whip out their phone, or they have to, take the chance on using their pistol as a flashlight.
Yeah, which is
That's
a terrible idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is not a good idea for legal purposes, and it's generally just not as ergonomic as a handheld light. And
Mm-hmm.
the same thing goes for an LPVO or an MPVO or any sort of optic on your rifle. So you're adding all this weight now. You're getting a really crappy observation tool, or we'll say a mid one. you're getting a mid observation tool that's permanently affixed on your rifle. Now you have to aim at anything you wish to observe. So now that means, and I'm taking this to big picture civilian stuff, I am now pointing a rifle at whoever I'm looking at or whatever I'm looking at. And in, GWAT era stuff, in conflict where you're looking at enemies, this doesn't really matter. Who cares? They're bad guys. I'm probably going to shoot them anyway, right? Or at least these are my targets. But in the civilian world, you might be looking at a grocery store. You might be looking at an area of interest, an intersection, a house. Now you're pointing a rifle at whatever you're looking at. And that's your only way to observe, is by pointing your rifle at it. I understand that if you're really sneaky and you don't get caught, then that doesn't matter that much. But in the event that somebody sees you or you're spotted doing that, that gives a very different connotation to sitting on a hill with a pair of binoculars to you're sitting on a hill with a rifle.
Yeah, you go from the creeper to the you go from just being a weirdo staring at people with binos. It's still not a good look if you get caught glassing somebody with binos either. But I get what you're saying 100%. I had a buddy of mine who for some reason cannot participate in the live chat, given all the technical errors we've had. Texted me and said, "Bones don't have good glass." That's my buddy's search.
Bones don't have good. You know what? I don't have good glass, but I also understand that if you want even, let's say a mid observation tool, you're going to spend a lot of money, and it's going to be a good bit of weight, because now you have the scope itself, and let's say you want a 1 to 10 or a 2 to 10. You're adding a lot of money, you're adding a lot of weight, and you are watering down what your weapon system is. Your weapon system should be a fighting rifle. It's a tool, and using it as an observation tool if you have to, sure, that's nice. But if that's your only option, you're just shoehorning yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. People don't kind of consider. I'd rather you have, if you're going to do a recon patrol, let's say, and it's just recon. It's just to gather info. Have, your 14.5 AR with a red dot on it that isn't going to lose zero. Is not going to have any problems getting drugged through the mud, crawling around, bumping off of vehicles, all that stuff. And then you just have a pair of binos. And it's going to be a way better, way safer observation tool than setting up your tripod and looking through your scope and having a very small field of view. That's where I'm coming from. Curious other people's thoughts. Yeah.
I mean, I'll play devil's advocate, but first I want to just say as well, if a lot of my, nightstand home defense, while the government standing rifles, the setups that I kind of have geared towards home defense, right? I have an EOTech on them, and I have the ability to slap on a 5X EOTech magnifier right behind them. So in that case, you can just use your magnifier off the rifle to glass, to observe, things like that. That's the benefit of having a red dot and a magnifier combination. I am not a big fan of the ACOG for reasons that we've already talked about a little bit. I love shooting long range. Shooting anything smaller than a full IPSC size target past 300 yards with an ACOG becomes very difficult. There's no wind holds. I think an LPVO is you're wasting the weight and the added magnification that you get with an LPVO if you have one that does not have wind holds. That is something that I have found. I have straight up returned. I had the Vortex Razor 1-6, right? Which is a phenomenal 2-gun optic. Guys use it all the time. It's got an amazing field of view, super fast, red dot bright, so you can actually use it like a red dot at high speeds up close, but it doesn't have any wind holds. So trying to shoot to 500 or 600 yards with a 14.5 with that on my gun became substantially more difficult, especially in Central Texas. We have very high winds out here, crosswinds, and if you're pushing a 77 grain pill at 500 yards and you're holding off into space because there's no wind hold references, I think it's a waste of what the LPVO is capable of. So I personally don't even look at LPVOs that don't have wind holds. MPVO, really any optic anymore. I like a Christmas tree, some sort of Christmas tree. To what extent, how dense it is, that's up to you. But I really think a wind hold they're invaluable once you start shooting past 300 yards. Now, earlier you mentioned you have never shot past 300 yards, so I'm not going to hold that against you, but I do want to just offer an alternative perspective, like you just asked. And while I agree with you, if all you're doing is observing, you have no intention of firing your gun, that is a really poor way to observe, is just to hold your gun up. But again, going back to peer-on-peer type, whatever the Second Amendment, whatever your LARP is, right? In my LARP, in my mind, if I'm defending my neighborhood, even, I have clear lines of sight out to 1,500 yards from my front porch. We're in the hill country. I can see clear across to the hill across. I've ranged it. It's 1,500 yards. Now, am I ever going to need to take a shot that far? Probably not. However, if I have a defensive post, right? If it's me and a crew of guys defending a piece of land where all of our homes are, because I think most of us would agree bugging out is really not the option.
It's not the move. Not the move.
Unless you're downtown. Yeah. Unless you're downtown, it's not the move. Bugging in is way more realistic. You see all these rifles behind me. They're not going to be in here if that ever happened. I'm going to be handing them out and fucking running mini training sessions in the streets of my neighborhood, because my neighbors are let's just say they're not about it yet. But anyways, I have a crew of guys that I train with that are, and in that case, if you are in an observation post, you're going to have a piece of glass. Like, I completely agree with you. Have a pair of binos, have a spotting scopes are a little worse, but like even a handheld rangefinder, if you're not using the range finding method, again, if you need to be careful not to send out any signals, depending on who you're fighting against or who you may be up against, having something handheld to observe and figure out what you're up against without having to put, like you said, your glass on everything is essential. But once you need to take that shot, if you figure out, okay, I can see clear out to 1,500 yards, but now I'm looking at a vehicle rolling up to a barricade, let's say, that is 700 yards away, and I'm glassing them with my spotting scope. If I'm in an established position, I probably have a tripod out, I probably have a guy with me, right? This is my fantasy LARP, right? But then I need to take that shot, right? I would, even with a 5.56 gun, I would so much rather have an LPVO with a 6, 8, or even 10x top end to be able to start to engage a target. And here's the thing, though. I'm going to take it even further. If you're at 200 yards and you have a vehicle shot, right, and you're in an established position, or you're hidden, whether you're in the woods or you're in a barricaded place, wherever you're at, even a person hiding behind cover at 200 yards is incredibly hard to hit without magnification. And that's where the LPVO really shines. And again, if you haven't shot too long distances on relatively smaller targets, like I shoot at 6-inch plates regularly at 300 plus yards. So coming from that perspective, it's a complete night and day difference. You're talking about increasing your hit percentage by like 95% over even an ACOG, which is 4x base magnification with no wind holds. Going from a 4x ACOG, not even talking about a red dot and a magnifier, because that's a whole different conversation, but going from something like an ACOG, which is by all accounts an amazing optic. It's put down way more bad guys than I ever will, right? Even with that, it increases your hit percentage by like 70, 80%. With me as a shooter, same barrel length, same gun, same caliber. One has an ACOG, one has a 1 to 8 attacker on it. And I'm talking about a extremely high difference in hit percentage from an ACOG to a 1 to 8 attacker with wind holds. And this is, again, at a 6-inch steel plate. It's set back into the wood line about 15 yards. I know where it's at. It's still so extremely hard to see with an ACOG, but you put that 8x up, you dial it up to 8x, I can see it clear as day. The glass is really good. But again, we're talking about a $3,000 optic. The same can be said for, I just saw today, a buddy texted me, a $1,200, the EOTech Voodoo is on sale right now for $1,200. And again, not a small amount of money, a very expensive optic for most people with a fixed income, but that is an extremely capable optic. Who knows if it's as durable as the attacker, right? It's not red dot bright either. So it's a little bit slower up close. The attacker, I've done the test. I've shot it back to back with, again, same exact rifle. One had the 1 to 8 attacker and one had an EOTech on it. And I shot the drills exactly at the same speed. I'm not saying, Matt Pranka can shoot he might have a different opinion on that, right? And that's his prerogative. But for me as a shooter, I shoot them at the same speed. Like there's other things that matter way more to the speed of the drill, like my reload speed than the actual optic itself with a red dot bright LPVO. But it does increase your hit percentage substantially once you get to those further distances. But I'm going to assume your position is it doesn't matter because that's really not realistic, because most fights are going to happen within 200-300 yards.
Well, I'm not going to say that that's not realistic. I'm going to say that I will say if you're giving a proposed scenario that you probably think is realistic to what you could foresee happening, you're making the scenario, and I'm not saying what you're saying is unrealistic. You know, what I'm saying is that if I was in this scenario, yes, I would want a weapon system like you're saying. If I got to make a really far shot that's relatively precise, yeah, I'm not going to say I'd rather have, you know, M4 with an ACOG. Absolutely not. But I will say that that's a very specific scenario, and that if in that scenario, sure, I would want what you're putting down, because that's that rifle. You know, you're proposing what's going to be theoretically like the best for that scenario. It is, though, a very niche scenario. You're assuming a lot of things, and I'm talking someone who has just one rifle. I'd rather it be more durable than it is capable at range. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like the scenario you presented, yes, I would rather have
right?
You know, something that if I'm going to do base defense, I've got long sight lines. Yeah, man, give me like a 20-inch M16 that's free floated with like a 1 to 10 on it or something. That's loaded with 77 grains or whatever's the ideal ammo for that. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think though that just a lot of people, they chase capabilities and start to shoehorn themselves. That's all.
Yeah, your argument is like, hey, what is your 80%, right? What is most likely? It's most likely going to be 200 and I get that. The playing devil's advocate, the last thing I'll kind of say about it, because I think I'm kind of beat a dead horse here, is that we beat
dead horses around here.
That's right. As autistic, right? So as far as actual speed transitioning, like I'm talking like within doing my 10-yard drills, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it be build drills, El Presidente drills, all the drills that I run at 10 yards with a pistol, I also run them with rifle, so on and so forth. All of those drills, I run them at the same speed with an EOTech as I do with a red dot bright LPVO. So the speed factor is no longer there. Now, what we're really arguing then after that is going to be weight and or durability. Mm-hmm. So again, in my mindset, the weight is not, I mean, I'm not trying to be like, hey dude, I'm fucking jacked, but I'm 6'1", I'm 260 pounds. The weight is not as big of a concern for me. And that's why I typically run shorter guns anyways, right? I'm already running a 12.5 with a can. So I'm keeping the weight as far back, as close to me as possible anyhow. So I'm sacrificing a little bit of velocity in order to gain a more maneuverable rifle, a lighter weight rifle. And so I kind of give up the length to get the glass. So then the last thing is durability. And this goes back to our conversation, the little debate we had over on Trench Grenades channel about red dots on handguns. And your experience is very different from my experience. I have had tens of thousands of rounds combined from all my handguns that I've shot with red dots on them. I really can't remember the last time I shot a handgun without a red dot. If it's not red dot capable, I'm really not interested, quite honestly. So I have had, I mean, probably pushing over 20,000 rounds of 9mm through all of my different, we lost Bones. God, big red dot got him. He's out. Well, let me just finish my point here. Bones, if you guys probably hadn't seen the Trench stream, we were arguing they were very anti-red dots on handguns. His experience was he had a Harrison that the battery tray flew out. It was complete dumpster fire wreck for him. And ever since then, he's like, I only shoot irons on handguns. And I'm like, that's kind of silly. Oh, here he goes. Bones is back.
I'm back. I got a quick phone call, though.
I was explaining to the folks. Okay. So I was explaining to everybody your perspective on red dots on handguns, how you had a complete dumpster fire experience with them. And that's why you primarily advocate for people to, especially budget-minded people, people who are less experienced to train with iron sights instead of training with red dots. We lost Bones again, but I'll continue. The argument, the perspective that I have is the complete opposite. I've never had a red dot fail on me that was besides a battery going dead on me like one time ever. I've never had a red dot fail on me. And also my perspective is, why not have both? Because you can have a red dot and backup irons. I still hold the belief that if it's a everyday carry gun or a nightstand gun, you really don't even need iron sights, because red dots are so good. If you change the battery once a year on an RMR, an SRO, RMR HD, even the Harosons with the fail-safe solar fail-safe, right? I've never had one fail on me, as in break, the glass break, or go down in some other capacity. So I am a huge fan of shooting with red dots because it makes it very easy for new shooters to shoot both eyes open, remain target focused, and have very quick transitions on target. And so I don't know where I was going with this now. I wish Bones was here to help me, because we were talking about, oh yes, damn it. We're talking about red dots on handguns. Red dots I think it was pretty much going back to red dots have come such a long way that they're really good. There's no real reason that they can fail nowadays if you change the batteries out, if you treat them well. And so I think LPVOs are kind of the same thing. That's kind of, I think, where I was going with it. ADHD kicked in, Bones got on and off, and then I lost my train of thought. But let's see here. Even cheaper LPVOs are extremely durable. It's no longer 2005. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm not dropping these from shoulder height onto concrete to see if they break. That's just not the type of content that I do on my channel. I do treat my guns like tools. I don't treat them well. They do fall over. They do get banged up. I do roll around with them, and I'm a big dude. So there have been times where I have treated LPVOs very badly, and they do not lose zero. I think the biggest thing with having an LPVO is having a good mount. I think the mount matters more than the optic in a lot of cases, unless your optic's taking a direct drop on the optic from a extended height onto concrete or blacktop or something, or falling out of a vehicle. I think it's really hard to damage an LPVO. But Bones, do you remember what I was talking about when we went to the red dots on pistols, that whole debate? I think where I was going with it was that red dots are so good now that you don't really need to worry so much about them failing on you. And that was what I think. I think that was comparing that to the LPVOs nowadays.
Yeah, so I'll say that I think we have two different perspectives that are both not bad perspectives. I think we both have very valid perspectives that simply come from our lived experiences, our environments, and then what we value, and then and then I think it's our price brackets too. So I am coming from I'm the people I'm surrounding myself with in my videos that I'm making, they are for people who are going to have one rifle, that they live in, a variety of different environments, and they are of a similar budget to me. So that means a lot of the LPVOs that are in the price bracket I'm considering, they're not very durable. They're not that great. It's better to get something that will perform better and be more durable with a prism or a red dot magnifier combo. And I think where you're coming from is you've got more money to spend, you've got more area to train, and you live in a different environment. Therefore, you're going to value performance and capability over the ruggedness, and because you've got more money to spend and you've got a different environment. Where I'm coming from is I'm arming dudes, or I'm talking to dudes who are on a budget. They and I'd rather them have something that will not fail them at the sacrifice, or has a lower chance to fail them for the price bracket, and I will take the hit of capability and complexity, or capability, to save on complexity, weight, and price. So I think that's kind of where we both stand on it. Yeah, I think that's a good summary of how it sounds. But I am down to continue talking. Just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, no, dude, I hear you. I just think that when it comes to what is your life worth, right? I'm a big buy once, cry once kind of guy. So I'm a big proponent of, that old saying, buy once, cry once. And as a gentleman mentioned in the comment section, I do agree with him. I think that it's not 2005. I think even budget LPVOs have come an extremely long way. Most of them have etched reticles, which again, that was a big issue with LPVOs in the past, right? Or the wire reticles. If they took a big enough impact, the freaking whole reticle would just break or shift. And that was a big issue with like the old, I mean, it was literally as far as I understand it, I'm not an optics expert, but there was literally a piece of wire, very fine wire that was tensioned at, but like a piece of fishing wire essentially, but it was colored, and that was your reticle. That was your crosshair. And so a lot of those older LPVOs would get damaged, but with modern technology, with etched reticles, unless you actually bend the tube far enough to break the glass or damage the turrets enough that it kicks off your zero, like that's going to take a pretty big impact. And I mean, if you look over to, again, going back to the war in Ukraine, I haven't seen a lot of a lot of cheap LPVOs being used, but I see a lot of cheap prisms being used. I see a lot of cheap red dots being used. Yeah, I guess I'm arguing against myself right now here, but I think it's because of the nature of the trench warfare and what these guys are experiencing. But I also am not like just searching late night, Ukraine war footage constantly, like a lot of people do. But I think that LPVOs give you an extended capability, especially. So the one that I'm most excited about, I don't have it yet, but I'm very excited about it. I have the non-red dot bright version. I have the Primary Arms PLXC 1 to 8. It's a phenomenal red dot, or LPVO rather. It's got 1 to 8. It's very compact. It's very lightweight. It's only a 30 millimeter tube, so it kind of keeps that weight down a little bit. And now they have a new version of it that is red dot bright. So for $1,500, I mean, look, what red dot do you run? What do you trust your life to? What's your go-to optic on your go-to gun?
So I have I've got a Primary Arms 2.5x Prism. That's on the 5.56 go-to rifle, and then on the PCC right now, I've just got iron sights. If I were to choose any optic for the PCC, I would probably get an Aimpoint Comp M4 or an EOTech 512 or ESPS series. Right now, I just have a legacy Primary Arms red dot that I'm getting a nice cheap mount for. Not Amazon special, something decent, but that's what I've got. That's what I'm rocking right now. Okay,
so with that being said, I like Primary Arms stuff, right? So you trust their Prism with your life because you've been running it on your go-to war rifle, right? That is a Prism optic, right? They're very simple. So I applaud you there for not being, I don't want to say you're being going to be hypocritical, but I get what you're saying. Like, it's a Prism, very low failure points technically, but you're still looking through a tube, right?
Yes.
There are more, there's more leverage for you to damage an LPVO than a shorter Prism, right? Depending on how long it is. So I agree with you there, but I think that if you got into even the SLX line, like one optic that I really loved and I kind of wish I hadn't sold was the SLX 1 to 10 second focal plane. That had an incredible reticle. Again, if you're going to be using your wind holds, if you're going to be using your holds in your reticle, you're probably going to be using them just at 10x anyways on an LPVO scenario like that. So that's the only issue with the second focal plane, is that your holds aren't true at any other magnification than the top end of the magnification range. But that's a $400-ish LPVO that was beefy. I think it was a 34 millimeter tube, and it's not that expensive. And I really regret selling it now because I actually really, really enjoyed it. It was not red dot bright, but it had an etched reticle, super durable. From everything that I saw, again, I'm not dropping them, but I put them through the same paces as I put all my other guns through. I run them hard, I run them on FRT mode, so on and so forth. So they're getting beat up. And a lot of my LPVOs I also run on like the SCAR 17, right? That's like known for destroying optics, and they hold up just fine. But again, I think going back to it, the optic mount matters way more than the optic. Like I even used to run a Holosun 503G, which is like an Aimpoint T2 knockoff. I'm holding up an Aimpoint T2, Bones. I don't know if you can see my screen or not, but I just finally hopped on the Aimpoint train, and Brownell sent this out to me. So I requested it. I mean, I've always wanted an Aimpoint. I just never really could stomach spending $900 on a red dot. So luckily Brownell's the biggest sponsor of the channel, guys. RDB10 over at Brownell's to support the channel and save yourselves 10% off over there. Send it out, and I'm really excited to start using it. But I have been a huge fan of EOTech for years because I have astigmatism, as you do. We've talked about this, right? This Aimpoint does look a bit starbursty to me, right? I see one very clear, bright center point, and then a bunch of like solar flares going off of it. But I think that even the 503G from Holosun, the mount matters way more than the actual body of the optic itself, right? It's aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
How bad can you really damage it without actually destroying the gun itself, too? So if you put an American Defense Manufacturing mount on that thing, I had them for years, and they never failed on me. They never lost zero. They never went down in the capacity that I couldn't hit what I was aiming at. And I think the same is true for an LPVO. I think if you get a good mount, now, again, the more stable and durable the mount is, the thicker and the heavier it's going to be. So you're adding to that weight factor. But Basement Ops, this guy's been a long time supporter of the channel. Let me just answer his question real quick. Hey, brother, what LPVO mount do you recommend? So he's asking about the Reptilla or the C1. So I just recently got the Reptilla mount. The Reptilla mount is great if you have a optic that has a short ring surface area, right? Like on this guy right here. This is the Reptilla. Let me point this down a little bit. So this says the Reptilla on it right here. No, we're not messing with it, YouTube. And there's a very small distance from the turrets to the where the front of the bell starts to expand. And if I wanted to mount a top dot, the Reptilla top mount is just a single piece that just replaces the top ring. The only bad part about the Badger Condition 1, because that is my favorite mount, the only bad part about it is it adds another ring to the bottom and then expands it, so it wouldn't actually fit on this 2 to 12 MPVO. But if I had to buy any mount for I run mostly Badger Condition 1 mounts, but again, going back to what Bones is talking about, that's a $320 mount. When you add the top dot, it's approaching $400 just for the mount. So it is certainly out of the reach of anyone who is in a lower tax bracket, I guess you could say, or has a lower budget, or I wouldn't even say that. Someone who places a lower priority on their gear and the amount of money they spend on their gear, because again, Bones, going back to the buy once, cry once thing, I've been a huge proponent of buy once, cry once, but guess what? I don't go out to bars. I don't gamble. I rarely drink. My wife's pregnant, so my drinking buddy can't drink, so I don't drink anymore. I really don't have any vices besides Zins, which I am deathly addicted to and I'm trying to get off. But I really don't spend my money on anything. I mean, I don't even have a vehicle right now. Me and my wife are sharing a vehicle. And so I literally prioritize this as my number one thing, and reinvesting in the channel, right? Because I need new product to film content on. This is my full-time gig. So I 100% get it. But for most people, maybe that's not all you spend your money on. Other guys have hobbies. Other guys have boats. Other guys like to golf. And they also want to do gun shit. And I get from that perspective, but I think a lot of my viewers, like the autists, like we talked about, right, getting into the nitty gritty, the reason they watch so many reviews is because they have a fixed budget and they don't want to waste their money, because they want to buy once and just have, save up for something and get the best that they can get with their money today. And I don't think that I would be doing them justice reviewing the cheapest optics that are out there in the market. Even if they're good, it's like the same guy who could have bought that prism that you have might in a year or 2 years from now discover that they like to shoot long range and be like, well, this is absolutely dog shit for this. And now that $300 they spent on that prism, they could have put into a Badger Condition 1 mount, got the EOTech 1 to 10, and had an optic that is future-proof for them and can do everything well. Maybe it doesn't do the durability part as well as an ACOG, but guess what? ACOGs aren't cheap either. Aim points aren't cheap either. Even holographic, like high-quality red dots are not cheap. So with the competition that's out there now for LPVOs and the price coming down and there being so many more options, I don't think that it's like you're really, if you're going to buy a quality optic like an Aimpoint's a little ridiculous. It's $900. I won't even talk about Aimpoint because I have no experience with them besides this one sitting on my desk, which I haven't shot yet. But EOTech. If you're going to buy an EOTech for $750, how much more are you really going to be hurting to go to the 1 to 10 and now have that capability? And if you want to buy the EOTech and red dot magnifier combo, you're spending around $1,200 anyways. So you might spend another two or three. Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
I'll hit you with this, and I get where you're coming from. I think this is an argument of, I am on the side of I value simplicity, I value rugged durability, and I value cost effective. I don't value cheap. I value cost effective. And then you are on the other hand where you value capability, mostly above all else. You want capability. And I get that. my little, somewhat of a snarky counter argument to the guy who buys a relatively cheap prism, then he realizes he wants to do more and he has to upgrade. There can also be the use case of somebody who's not very experienced with firearms. They say, well, I'm just going to buy once, cry once, and I'm going to get this really expensive optic. And then they realize that the shooting that they do or the use cases that they find themselves in, they could have spent that money on something much cheaper and gotten the same performance. They decide that they want a prism, they want a red dot, and that they don't need that much capability, or they don't need or don't want that much weight and complexity. So I get where you're coming from, and I see that argument. I will also say, though, on the inverse of that, I think there's some guys who will go with the buy once, cry once mindset, and I think that's definitely better than cheaping out. But the inverse is, guy, he saves up, $3-4 grand on this optic and then realizes, well, shit, I could have bought a $500 red dot and a $400 magnifier and I would be happier because it's lighter, or something like that. So
totally,
I get it.
totally
I get
understand.
from, though.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. That is certain. I've made so many mistakes, and I actually listened to a lot of reviewers who I didn't realize at the time were just trying to sell me something before I started the channel. I made a lot of purchases based off of them saying this is the best thing ever. You need this, or you're going to get killed in these streets. And then I regretted it immediately, and then I lost my ass when I tried to sell it. So totally understandable. Let me answer this last question from Basement Ops. Credo 1-8 or Voodoo 1-8. I don't know about the Voodoo 1-8, but the Voodoo 1-10, I would say over the Credo 1-8 because of the reticle options. If you went to the Credo 1-10, they do have new reticles for it. I haven't shot them, but that being said, guys, it is unfortunately my time to roll. Bones, thank you so much for joining the stream, man. It really was great to have your perspective. It's fun to be able to debate somebody who like you said, you kind of have a completely different mindset on it, which is cool. And but you still have an open mind, and I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about it for this long. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys had a lot of fun as well. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but go ahead and check out Bones Maloney. I did put in the chat his YouTube channel, so you can find it. Subscribe to his channel. I like his stuff. He's a good dude. If you do want to support the channel, guys, rangedaybro.com for any merch. We have all our internet friends, our feds t-shirts. We have our Bucky shirts. We have a lot of merch. We have our discounts page, all our affiliate links. So don't buy anything you don't need. But if you need something and you do use my links and my codes, you'll save some money and it will support the channel at the same time. So thank you to everybody who's allowed me to do this full time for 4 months now, however long it's been. I love you guys. Drink a lot of water. Christ is King. Bones, take care of yourself, brother. Take care.
Have a good one, y'all.